All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. So hello to all of you and welcome. My name is Sarah Metzger, and I'm an education program specialist for the Sokolov-Miller Family Financial and Life Skills Center here at Penn State's University Park campus. I want to thank you all for joining me in today's Fall 2022 kickoff of our Money Counts Financial Literacy series. This is really exciting. There's so much energy on campus right now, which I do hope you all brought in with you to today's session. I'm really excited about this one, probably because it's the first of the semester, but also because I think flow is just a great presentation. It's a great topic to dive into. We're going to look at this overview of financial literacy, and this is a really great session to start this semester with because it provides an awesome foundational framework for money management and really tease up a lot of excellent topics that we're going to dive deeper into as the semester carries on. And I really do hope that you will join me as we journey through this world of personal finance. We have a lot to talk about this semester, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. Before we jump in, though, I just want to cover a few quick things for anybody who is new to our webinars. First, take a look at your screen. I'm going to open up a quick poll, and I just want you to tell me a little bit about yourself since I told you a little bit about who I am, right? Fill that out. It should take you no more than like 6 seconds. Secondly, I want to mention that this session is being recorded and it will be available on our website later this afternoon. We're going to have a really speedy turnaround. So if you have to step out early, no worries. You can come back and catch up on the content you missed later on. Our website is financialliteracy.psu.edu. This session, it's also meant to be engaging and interactive. And so you have in front of you access to both the chat and the Q&A box in which you can submit any questions that are coming up for you and capture any links that I send. And I will definitely be sending some useful links today. So keep an eye on that as we move along. I don't want you to miss any. Certainly though, if you do or you can't find a link in the chat, because there's just been a lot of activity in there. No worries, I can get a link back to you at the end of the session. You can always stay after we're kind of done here, ask any additional questions, capture the links you might have missed, and just dialogue with me. We're here for an hour. I'm not going to talk for an hour, so we'll have plenty of time for Q&A at the end. All right. All right, I'm also going to end this poll as I start to transition here. So we got a nice mix of folks joining in today. Welcome, welcome. Happy that you're all here. Okay. So I also want you to know as we get started here that the center offers more than just this bi-monthly webinar series to the Penn State community. Our team of financial educators and counselors, as well as amazing student ambassadors, they just came back, of course, and we're super excited about it. All of us together, we offer one-on-one appointments, we offer group presentations to classes and student organizations, self-paced study modules on Canvas. So you're very familiar with Canvas or you're getting familiar with it, you can find all of our self-paced learning courses there. And we also have a mentoring program where we connect students with Penn Staters, right? Faculty, staff, alumni to have these kind of conversations around personal finance and receive direct support with it. It's a great networking opportunity as well. So we've got these main services that we also provide in addition to this webinar. I also want to highlight for you, and this is some new information here, that starting in the spring of 2023, we are also going to begin offering hands-on small group workshops on money foundations. And these workshops, they're going to provide an in-depth guided approach to exploring financial literacy. So if after today's session, you're really feeling motivated to do a little bit more work on your personal finances, I highly encourage you to take advantage of these additional services that we offer, right? The one-on-one appointments with professional staff, check out one of the self-study modules, sign up for our listserv as well. I didn't mention that earlier, but it is in the chat. You can sign up to stay in touch with us, and you'll be one of the first to know about these workshops that we're going to begin hosting later on in the spring. So all of that that is in the chat. The link, I should say, to the website is there. Get more information and know that we are here as a free resource for you. And we do a lot and we want to help, right? Like we have a lot so that we can provide a lot of assistance to you in whatever way you need. So we've got all these services and it's really because we're on a mission, right? Like I just said, we want to help you. I want to be a little bit more clear about what that help looks like. We are on a mission to give you the knowledge and resources that you need to really increase your own financial wellness. We want you to be financially healthy, financially fit, and to be sure, financial health is not defined exclusively by your level of income or your net worth or your credit score, right? This is not how we evaluate somebody's financial fitness, and it's not how you ought to be evaluating your own. Wealth is relative. It is not always easy to see on the outside, and demonstrated wealth isn't always what it seems. So let's always kind of keep that in mind, right? Your financial wellness is really measured in how much control you have over your regular finances and your ability to withstand a financial emergency that might come up, while at the same time maintaining freedom of choice in life and keeping on track to meet your bigger financial goals. So that's how we define and measure financial wellness. And this is what we, through our work at the center, are hoping to help you increase for yourself, right? And a great way to do that, to go about increasing your level of financial wellness, is to learn about the essentials of personal finance and to then put that learning into action. So there are, of course, a lot of places where we can go to get information nowadays. Like this, sources are endless, right? But sometimes we're not always sure if it's good information coming out of YouTube or coming out of TikTok or coming out of some strange website that popped up on Google, right? This is where we come in as a center. So we work with the Penn State community to teach you about what it means to earn money, to save and invest, strategies for savvy spending, the perks and potential pitfalls to look out for when borrowing money, and how to protect all the assets that you've accumulated for yourself. These are the 5 core competencies that we teach on here at the center, which is really what's bringing us to the right here and the right now, and the goal that I am trying to accomplish in talking with you today. I'm going to give you a nice high level overview of these concepts and some suggestions for steps you can take starting today to become more financially fit. And just like with working out, to get stronger requires, of course, some of that repetition and that persistence. And the same is true for healthy money behaviors. Sometimes it's not always easy to get started, but once we get going and we're working out and we're doing the money behaviors and it's habit, we're building that strength and we're building better overall financial health, financial wellness, combining words here. I recognize, though, that sometimes talking about money is tough, and kind of just being in this space around personal finances can be uncomfortable. But I want to say there is such a benefit having an honest conversation with yourself about your money habits, and then talking with others about money too. So just really getting as open with yourself as you can about what's going on with your finances, and then being unafraid to connect with others for support. It's essential here. Truly, 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 it's essential because it enriches your learning, and it's helping these other people, whoever you're connecting with, you're teaching others, they're improving their finances too. It's just this wealth of knowledge growth and better health among personal finances. So the thing about it is, though, on the flip side, when we don't talk about money, we might find ourselves ending up in a bit of a precarious situation. Like this individual here, Johnny Finance. If you don't know Johnny Finance on TikTok, he is hilarious, and he's going to illustrate to you the consequences of not showing up today for the webinar and not, being engaged in these conversations about money and money exploration. Let's take a listen. Oh, well, that didn't work. Let me try that again. Can I get a confirmation in the chat? Can y'all see my screen? Yes. Okay. Wonderful. Hey, one thing was going to go wrong, right? Certainly one thing. So let me make sure that my share is good for video and sound, and we'll go ahead and try this again.
Dad, how much money do you make?
That's none of your business, son.
Oh, okay. Hey, Mom, how much is our house worth?
The value of our home comes from within.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir, just got a promotion.
Cheers to that, man. How much are you making now?
It's really none of your business.
Oh, my bad.
So how did you end up in all this debt?
I don't know. I just never talked about money.
There you have it, folks. I don't know. I just never talked about money. We are here to not do that. We are not going to be in this situation that Johnny Finance found himself in. And I will say, of course, that this is kind of a bit of an exaggeration, of course, but it could be a potential in the future for someone, right? But let's avoid it. Let's talk about money. Let's make it comfortable, and let's learn. Let's learn as much as we need to. That's what we're here to do today. All right, you should still be able to see the screen. Let's continue on. All right, so you've arrived here. You do not want to be like Johnny Finance. You want to talk about money. You want to improve your financial health. You're looking to strengthen your money habits. You're wondering, where do I go from here? I present to you your guide, the ladder to financial wellness. If you have ever climbed a ladder, you know a couple of things about this. I have climbed a ladder, so I know this too, right? You know that you can't get to the top instantly, and you have to climb starting from the bottom or whatever that easiest access point is, right? And then by climbing higher and higher and higher up the ladder, you tend to grow stronger over time if you're climbing ladders pretty regularly, right? The same is true with your money. Most of us, we do not start off extremely wealthy. We have to work our way up from the bottom, climbing rung by rung carefully so as to build our strength and not risk falling down and further away from financial wellness or high levels of financial wellness for ourselves. So together, we're going to look at what these steps are. We're going to start with the first step of starting with the budget, lowest level on the rung. First thing we're all going to do when we start to climb this ladder. And then we're going to move up to step 2. We're going to talk about creating an emergency fund, followed by steps 3 and steps 4, where we're considering our debts and planning for the future. And then finally, we'll look at that highest level and what it means to really grow wealth. Like I said, most of us are not starting up at the top. We have to work our way there. So what is the most logical upward progression that we can follow for ourselves? This is it. This is your guide right here. Oh, and there you are, right? I love my little animations. And there you go. You're going to move just like that little icon, with some intervals of stopping in between, of course. We can't just hop immediately to the top. So let's get back to that first rung. We're going to start with a budget and a conversation about what it means to budget. All right, so starting a budget, this is that first fundamental step in any well-guided personal finance journey. It is the beginning of your roadmap, and it's the beginning because it directly influences how fast and how easily you can climb up that ladder. It's not necessarily a race, of course, but if you're considering speed, right, and how kind of you're moving upwards, your budget's going to influence that. Your budget is your plan for spending money. Your spending plan, it helps you to decide in advance really whether you will have enough money to do the things that you need to do right now or would like to do in the future, right? So today, You could go out to the hub and you can buy some food, you can buy a coffee, you can get a smoothie from Jamba Juice, you could purchase uh, a football ticket, right? A ticket for one of the upcoming games. I actually just purchased concert tickets for myself. So that little like drum set really speaks to me here. The money that we're spending today is impacting what we're able to do with our money tomorrow. That money may not be there tomorrow. So we have to make choices for ourselves. I might forego eating out today or buying a coffee, or I might have delayed buying these concert tickets for another time so that I could instead start to save that money and move that money over to a bigger goal that I have for myself, like buying a house or paying for college tuition or college expenses. Grad school, I've been through that. I had to do this. I did move my money over, right, to be able to afford grad school. And a car as well. I hit that age and stage where I needed a car, and so I had to start saving for one, right? This is what budgeting is all about. Now, the trick to any good budget is really to make sure that it is honest, accurate, and in line with the financial goals that you have for yourself. Most budgets are set monthly, and you'll start by setting a financial goal for yourself, whatever it may be. And I'm going to give to you in the chat here some more information about budgeting as I go. I'm going to talk about this, but there's a resource for you. So like I said, most budgets, they're set monthly. You start by setting a financial goal. It could be something like paying your bills on time or saving for tuition, you name it. Then you're going to find a tool that will help keep you accountable for the remaining steps of the budgeting process that you see on the screen here. Once you've got your goal and once you've got your tools set, you are ready to move on to identifying your income and expenses. You are going to comb through your income. You're going to comb through your expenses. You're going to find every dollar that's coming in and going out of your life. And you're having to go through with that really fine tooth comb. You don't want to miss anything, right? Your budget has to be accurate. So you're looking for all that income and all that, all the expenses, the purchases that you're making, and you're going to make a list of it. You're going to make a list of everything. You're going to separate income and expenses, and then you're going to break down your expenses list even further into purchases that you absolutely needed to make to survive and purchases that you just wanted but didn't need, like eating out and shopping and things like that. And then once you've got your income and you've got your expenses totaled, right, you're going to subtract your expenses from your income. What you find as a result, if you've got a surplus of money left over, meaning you have this sum of money, but you didn't spend all of it by the end of the month, you've got a surplus. Okay, that's extra money that you can start to put towards those financial goals, short term or long term, or to make any kind of adjustments. Maybe you can go out to eat again more regularly, right? Whatever it may be. But it's when you find that you are overspending, you're running out of money, it's time to adjust. And that's that last step in the process that you see on the flow chart there. It's time to adjust to avoid overspending again and to get back on track with your goals. So, of course, there's a little bit more to this. I'm just giving you an overview, of course, right? There's definitely a deeper dive we could take into it. And honestly, sometimes budgeting, it can be tricky for folks. I have at times struggled with budgeting. Folks have reported to me that it can be difficult at times, and kind of getting into the flow of a budgeting routine is not always, easy. I get that. And that's why we're here to help. So if this process is something you're like, this is where I'm at on the rung. I'm starting right here and I need to get my budget set, but I need some help. You come and you talk to us. You can meet with us one-on-one to get support, or you could also check out our self-study module on our website for a more in-depth explanation. And like I said at the very beginning of this webinar, this flow is an overview that tees up all the other topics for the semester. We are going to have a webinar dedicated entirely to budgeting, where we will take that deeper dive. So I gave you a quick overview of the process, but if you want to come back for more, we have additional resources and that deeper dive for you. So just keep that in mind. Now, I mentioned in this process of budgeting, step two is to find a tool that you like. There are a lot of tools out there to choose from to help you stay on track with your budget and to make sure that it's honest and accurate. There's a few listed on the screen here. It's definitely not all of them, but it is several of the pretty good ones out there. Some might even say these are some of the best budgeting apps out there that you can tap into. Some of our bank cards have like our checking accounts and our credit cards have apps with some small budgeting tools built in, but they're not necessarily going to allow you to really look closely at all of your income and expenses and all of your habits and allow you to really do a good analysis of it all and make adjustments as necessary. There are features built into apps that make it much simpler and it's almost automated, with some of these where it's looking at your transactions for you. It's amazing. I'm curious of the group that's here. I'm going to open up another poll. Are there any tools from this screen here that you've tried personally and you would endorse for others, you'd recommend and say, yeah, definitely give this app a go. I tried it, I liked it, and I think you might like it too. So the poll's open. I'm going to give you like 20 seconds on that. Please do share your feedback, and I'm going to share that out with everybody so they kind of get a sense of what's been tried and what's verifiably good. I mean, in the most basic sense, because I'm not asking for a full review. Unless you, of course, want to leave some remarks in the chat, which you can. And I also see that we've got additional suggestions coming in through the chat, which is wonderful. So please let that be a space, a community space where you all can dialogue about your experiences around budgeting and what's worked for you, and maybe what didn't. That's always, sometimes helpful information to know as well. Okay, I'm going to end the poll for now. You can continue to talk in the chat. That's totally fine. Here's what you all said. So most of you all have kind of relied on the Excel spreadsheet method for tracking your budget. And that's great. If you love Excel files, if you love Google Sheets, by all means, go for it. You can put in your formulas and just rock and roll from there. And it's a matter of just inputting your income as well as your various purchases over the course of a month or a week or whatever your frequency is for budgeting, right? We also have an Excel spreadsheet on our website. We have one that we created in-house, a budget spreadsheet that you can download for absolutely nothing. It's totally free. And it's got all the formulas built in. So if you know you're a big fan of spreadsheets, I encourage you to hop onto our website and check out in the resources section. And in fact, I'll send that through the chat here. Check out the resources section. You can download that Excel budget tool for yourself. Some of you also then reported a big amount, and I'm actually a little surprised by this, but it's because I don't personally come across a lot of folks who talk about journaling as their way of budgeting or their system for keeping track of their budget. But I get it. I think that's, if it works for you, go for it. If you've got a cool little journal at home where you're record keeping all of your income and expenses and you're doing the calculations from there, keep on rocking with it, right? Mint has also been recommended in our poll, as well as Every Dollar. And then You Need a Budget as well. And I do believe I saw Pocket Guard came up in the chat. I don't know Pocket Guard, but it's been recommended. So it's one for you to check out if you're interested. I will say that You Need a Budget is typically a paid app. And as you might guess, as a paid app, it offers a lot. It's very sophisticated, but bonus, if you are a college student, undergraduate, graduate, doesn't matter. If you are a college student and you have a way to verify that you are a college student, you can get You Need a Budget for a full year for free. And I've got that link here as well coming through the chat for you to sign up if you are curious. I certainly, I'm not enrolled in a class this semester. I might have missed my window to register for the free trial, but as soon as I get re-enrolled in a class for the spring, I'm totally going to get my free trial going. And report back to us. If you do try You Need a Budget, you learned from this webinar, that you want to try it and you love it, like send us that feedback. We would really love to know what you're thinking about some of these recommendations, resources that we're putting out there for you. If they're good, great. We're going to keep recommending them. If you're like, you should, no, tell us. We want to know, right? Tell us. I'm also looking at the chat here, see if there's anything else coming through. Okay, a couple of quick questions there. Our director Julie is on the line as well. I think she'll respond to some of those inquiries. This recording, like I said, will be available online after the fact. And some of these other questions I think Julie can attend to about the slide deck, okay? All great questions and great engagement as well. Thank you, everybody. So the moral of this slide is find a tool that you like, right? Let's keep it moving though, because there's more to talk about with budgeting. Like budgeting for college, for example. So when it comes to budgeting for college expenses, like, as you might guess, tuition, room and board, books, personal expenses, transportation costs, like there's a lot, of course. To budget for all of this, you can follow the same process that I just shared with you. As well, let me rephrase that. You can follow the same process that I just shared with you and then add in a couple of extra steps as outlined here. It's not a whole lot. It's totally doable. So the first thing that you ought to do if you are budgeting for college, we recommend that you complete the FAFSA application and that you do this every single year. This is the free application for federal student aid, and it opens every year on October 1st. And it really, by completing this application, it makes it possible for you to receive federal student aid if you're eligible for certain types, loans, grants. You'll see that come through FAFSA, but you'd need to apply to FAFSA first in order to be eligible to receive these things, right? Now, once you've completed FAFSA, you're in this process of budgeting for college, the next step is to estimate your yearly total cost of attendance. And I recommend using Penn State's net price calculator online. And I'm going to actually send through the chat. Hopefully things are not getting too crazy in there. I'm going to send through the chat both the FAFSA application link as well as Penn State's net price calculator, which is part of step 2. And this net price calculator, and it's going to calculate the net price for you relative to Penn State's tuition costs and your expected financial aid awarding, or what you could expect to receive in financial aid based on the FAFSA application that you fill out, I should say. So this net price, what it's going to give to you, I'm going to plug in some numbers and it's going to spit out a net price. The net price is an estimated cost, or an estimated price, I should say, that you'll pay each year after financial aid has been applied, right? Now, once you've done all that, consider your financial sources that you have available to pay for the college costs, including grants, scholarships, work study, loans, and personal funds. You're going to see some of these estimates come up in the net price calculator. You'll see on LionPath what you've actually been awarded. So if you're a current student, you log into LionPath and you've accepted your aid, you see what you've accepted or what you may have declined. And each year that you receive financial aid awards, it will appear there. There's a lot more to this. This is literally a whole nother presentation in and of itself to talk about grants, scholarships, work study loans, and really what it means to pay for college. And so I'm going to plug here that we do have another webinar this semester. Is going to be great. We have another webinar coming up on Tuesday, September 6th, where we're going to look closely at these options for paying for college. So if you know that you're thinking a lot about budgeting for school, you're thinking about budgeting in general, but you're really wanting to drill down into paying for college, budgeting for college expenses, I encourage you to tune into our webinar on Tuesday, September 6th at noon, where we're going to look at this a little bit closer. If you can't join live, just like with this webinar, it is going to be recorded, but we want you to know that we have resources to look at this further and to give you more clarity on the topic. It's really so important. And so just know that those resources are there for you. Now, on this slide, as we kind of start to round out a conversation about budgeting for college, I'm not taking the deep dive into all of the different funding sources, but I do just want to throw a couple of quick tips at you that you can think about and incorporate in your continued exploration into paying for college, right? When you join us in 2 weeks for that next webinar, here's what I want to share with you. That, you know, how do I say this? You can use some of these tips. If you use some of these tips, you follow some of these tips, at the very least, you can help prevent incurring additional educational costs. That's the goal of these tips on the screen. For some of you, it may even potentially lower your cost. It just kind of depends on your individual circumstances and how you apply these things. So take a look at some of them here, right? Obviously, it saves money to graduate on time or early. If you are not able to graduate on time, you're paying for an additional semester or more that you maybe otherwise didn't initially expect. And so your cost of education goes up a little bit, right? Or maybe a lot of it in your mind, depending on kind of how that goes for you. So my recommendation then also is meet with your academic advisor. Get a plan for your academic major of study. Make sure you're on track, you're taking the classes that you need to, you take the prereqs when they become available and you don't miss them, because that can delay your plan. That could be costly later on down the road when you're having to take an additional class or an additional semester to kind of catch up because you missed a class when it was otherwise available, right? You could also take advantage of the flat rate tuition that Penn State has. So when you take more than 12 credits, we'll say 15 credits, 18 credits, those credits are not, you're not billed extra for those. So they are considered like included in that flat rate. But that doesn't include all extra credits. So there's a limit. And once you're beyond that limit, you would start to be charged again, or certainly some other issues might present themselves if you're overloading your course load for the semester. So it's a balancing act here of how can we make this work for us, right? I also want to then end with this tip here on satisfactory academic progress. I'm hoping that you've heard about satisfactory academic progress. Students out there, I'm talking to you, staff and faculty, you're probably familiar with this, but SAP is really essential to understanding if you've received federal aid and you want to continue receiving your federal aid. If you, as a student, don't make satisfactory academic progress, your federal aid would be withheld or taken back. And that is not a situation that anybody wants to be in, right? And so to maintain satisfactory academic progress, you got to make sure you do the following: pass and finish at least 67% of your classes that you start, keep your GPA above 2.0, and make sure that you finish your degree in your allotted time. If you're not sure what your allotted time is, check in with your academic advisor to be sure, and they'll help you do the math on that. There's a little bit of a formula to help you figure out what your allotted time is. But if you meet, you're doing all that, you're going to be fine. You're going to be meeting SAP and your federal aid will be good to go. Again, want to know more about that federal aid? Tune in 2 weeks, right? So we can start to assemble more of the pieces here and have this all make sense as a whole. All right, now the last thing I want to tell you with budgeting, gosh, there's so much to say about budgeting. Again, it's that first step of the financial ladder that we're climbing to become financially fit. Of course, there's a lot going on here, right? It's the base, it's the foundation. If you've ever stood on a ladder that's like a little off kilter or not secured, you're at risk of falling and getting hurt. We don't want that. So we set up a strong base. We set up a really big, strong base around budgeting. There's a lot to talk about. The last thing I want to share with you is dining on a budget. And this is for the students out there. This is the beginning of the semester. There's a lot of energy around eating on campus, trying new foods, having your dining dollars presented to you and just kind of like, yeah, let's go, let's rock. let's keep a couple things in mind, right? You can budget your dining dollars. If you're living on campus and you've got that meal plan, you know all your dining dollars came to you up front. Make sure you are planning how you want to spend those so that you're not overspending. You don't want to run out before the end of the semester. And you also don't want to get stuck in the situation of if you don't use it, you lose it, which can happen at the end of the year. If you have leftover dining dollars that you don't spend, that money is just lost, right? Just gone. You don't get it back. There's no refund. So you plan so that you're spending accordingly. You track to make sure that you are sticking to the plan you set for yourself and you adjust as you go. So these same kind of principles with budgeting are money for other expenses. It still applies here, right? Now, the same is true for anybody who's tuning in that lives off campus, but, and I should say, same rules apply, but let's add in this layer of you're cooking for yourself, right? Like you're probably doing all of the cooking at home versus dining at the Commons and having some already prepared meals for yourself. So plan, track, adjust your spending, and make sure that in addition, you are planning your meal, like your meal specifically. So you're not just saying, oh, I'm planning to go to the grocery store next week. It's, I'm planning to go to the grocery store. I'm planning to spend no more than $100. And here are the meals that I am going to prep for. So here are the items I'm going to shop for, right? And you shop savvy, you shop the deals, and you make sure to prepare that food and enjoy it so as not to waste it, have it spoil, because that's cash in the trash. And we want to avoid that. If you are curious about exploring dining on a budget even further, we do have, here we go, another webinar, right? Oh, it's wonderful. We have another webinar coming up that is specifically on dining on a budget and looking at food budgeting and how to really maximize that for yourself. So if I've caught your attention here with this slide, tune in later on in the semester, check out our website for the full schedule of topics so you can sit in with us when we dive into this topic. It's going to be a lot of fun. And last plug with this slide, you'll see the screenshots here. We do have another budgeting tool for dining dollars. So if you are living on campus and you have a meal plan and you want to get better at planning, tracking, and adjusting your spending habits on those dining dollars, check out our website for the budgeting tool. You can download it. It was created by one of our students in-house. It's really, really user-friendly, and it does the job for you. It will help you to see your habits among spending the dining dollars you have and keep you on track in the way that you want. So I just sent the link again through the chat. You can get to our resources via that. I do want to check in for a second before I move on to step 2, because I did see a couple of big chats coming through. Am I missing anything? Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Okay. Everything's looking good. Wonderful. Let's keep it moving. So now, all of that about budgeting, we're going to move on to step 2. Creating an emergency fund. Now, the last couple of steps of these slides, or of the ladder, I should say, are going to be pretty short and sweet. They're pretty straightforward. There is more to know, but again, this is an overview. So now that you have a budget, you can work in a plan to save money while still meeting those other expenses that you have, right? I imagine you're going to want to begin saving for a big purchase, maybe something later on down the road, a big financial goal. But I want you to know there is more, even more to save for, because of course, emergencies happen. So it's important to save for the unexpected. Broken devices, lost chargers, hospital visits. Really, the rule of thumb here to kind of deal with all that is to save at least 3 months of living expenses, right? So you have money to tap into for when those emergencies come up. Or even, worst case scenario, you lose your job and you're having to continue to pay for all these expenses with no income, not any income coming in, right? We want to be ready for that. The expectation, I should say the rule of thumb, you set your expectation, but the rule of thumb is save for at least 3 months worth of living expenses. In this case, living expenses are defined as your monthly minimum expenses. These are the absolutely essential expenses: money for rent, your mortgage, utilities, groceries, the things you can't live without. So think back to when I talked about the process for budgeting earlier. I recommended that you separate your expenses into 2 lists: your needs and your wants. That want list that isn't factored into your monthly minimum. It is the list of items that you could cut in an emergency, and you should do so as needed. So if you do find yourself in a financial hardship, the the wants, all the luxury items you might call them in your budget are going to be the first things to go, right? Because the essentials are what are important, the things you absolutely need. So having that budget set will have everything well identified. You'll know what you can cut in an emergency, and you're saving for an emergency should one come up. Got it. There we go. All right, now on to step 3. Moving on up. All of your budgets should include an expense category for debt payments. And now that you've got that budget set and you have a savings fund growing for emergencies, it's time to think about your debts. As soon as you borrow money, you are in debt. You're considered to be in debt. So if you have a credit card balance or if you've got student loans, you are considered to be in debt, and debts must be repaid. And the longer it takes to pay them off, the more debts will ultimately cost, because we are charged extra for the privilege of borrowing the government's money via a student loan or a bank's money via a credit card. The rule of thumb here is borrow only what you can afford to pay back, and always devise a plan for repayment. So here's an example that you might follow. If you are planning for repayment of your debts, maybe you have multiple credit cards and you've got multiple student loans. My suggestion is, number 1, make a list of all your debts and all the interest rates. So that's that extra that we're being charged for the privilege of borrowing. Those rates will probably vary. Make a list of everything, and then figure out, well, what are your options for dealing with the debt that you have? You might be able to tackle it on your own, no problem, but it might make sense for you to consider something like consolidation or a payment plan. And that's a whole different presentation we could get into, right? But you want to think about that, right? From there, you're going to adjust your budget to that monthly minimum, like we talked about. So you're cutting out all the unnecessary spending, cutting out those non-essentials as you're dealing with debt payments. And then you're prioritizing paying debts that have the highest interest rate first. 4 steps. 4 steps that you can follow as you're considering these debts that you maybe don't have now, but might have later on, or you do have now and you're trying to deal with them, right? Here's a great place to come in and meet with our team to help work out a debt repayment strategy for yourself. We have appointments available, like I said. We've got a self-study module on debt management. There is more that we can offer you around this topic, and there's more thought that should be given. So investigate that further, right? Now, as we continue to work up the ladder, sitting in this level 3, thinking about debt, I do also just want to quick plug some considerations around responsible use of credit cards and student loans, and using debt in our favor, because not all debt is bad debt necessarily. Some people would argue with me and they'd say all debt's bad debt, but I argue that student loans, that's good debt, right? You're taking out a student loan to pay for an education that's going to have a great return on investment later on down the road, right? That's okay. As you take out student loans, as you manage a credit card for yourself, it's important to be responsible with them, right? Because responsible use of our credit, that reflects favorably in a credit score, which you may have heard of. And the benefits of good credit are many. There are several, right? It's easier to find an apartment because landlords are checking your credit reputation. They want to see if you are responsible with money, and your credit score is a reflection of that, right? Sometimes there's even an influence on whether or not you could get a job. And trust me, sit in with us at the center. We could tell you more about that, right? So there are benefits to having good credit. My recommendation to you, if you have a student loan, if you have a credit card, that you get in there and you check your credit score using an app like Credit Karma or on your bank card app. A lot of credit cards nowadays will give you your score for free. Figure out what your financial reputation currently is, because it exists out there if you have a credit card or if you have a student loan and you want it to be something that's favorable, as you see on the scale on the screen, right? I also recommend you check out your credit report, which is like the report card. It contains all of the information about your various accounts, your various loans, your various credit cards, your personal information. You want to make sure that all of that checks out and that it's accurate, right? You can check that for free on annualcreditreport.com. So another resource to share with you. Make sure you do so. It's part of being in this rung of the ladder, that you are considering your debts and you're aware of them and you're managing them, right? So I'm going to go ahead and plug at least that link for the annual credit report, checking that out when you have time. And if you want to come sit in and talk with our staff on, like, help me break down this report, because some of them are going to be really long, we're happy to do that too, right? Just another way that we're here to serve you. Alrighty. So let's take it on to step number 4, which is planning for the future. We've done a lot. And you might see that as you climb the ladder, climbing the ladder might coincide somewhat with your age and stage in life. You might say to yourself, well, as I get a little older, I'll start to plan for the future. But I will argue it's never too early to begin planning for the future and to begin saving for major expenses that are going to come up, right? Buying a house, buying a car, retiring, having kids. Planning is important. So, what do we do when we're here? Well, we save for those big things that I mentioned. You start with the end in mind and you begin to plan backwards. You're saving early and you're saving often. And I want you to know that as a college student, it, you're not working necessarily for a company full time where you've got an employer sponsored retirement plan available to you. But if you are working part time as a college student, if you've got an income of some kind, you could open up a retirement account for yourself and start to save for the future right now. It's called an IRA, an individual retirement account, and it's totally accessible to you. And it's not super complicated to open. And so if you know, hey, I want to plan for the future, I'm at this level of the ladder, how can I do it? Here's how. My suggestion is, if you're interested in opening up an IRA, definitely come and talk with us at the center to learn more about what it's all about, how it works. But then from there, you'll just need to find a bank or a brokerage or an insurance company even who can help you open up that account and manage it. And the money, while it sits there, it's just going to grow and grow and grow and grow on its own, which is amazing. The sooner you start to save money, the more time that money has to grow exponentially. And that's a result of compound interest. So when we save money in these kinds of accounts, that money is just going to grow. Oh, it's amazing to watch, right? And so take advantage of it, right? This is not off limits. Planning for your future is not off limits to you now. You just want to make sure that you follow the steps that precede this in the ladder to make sure you have money to begin saving in an investment, or I'm sorry, in a retirement account for the future, right? Now, at the same time as you're planning for the future, that planning should also include protecting yourself, like making a plan to protect yourself from financial loss. You've got assets, you've got money, that you've saved up. If it's at home, under the bed, take it out, take it out of the shoebox and you put it in the bank where it's safe in the bank, right? Where it's insured. You as a person, you are worth something, right? You're worth something to yourself. You're worth something to somebody else. And so you insure yourself with health insurance or dental insurance, vision insurance. You take care of yourself and protect yourself with these kinds of insurance coverages to avoid having to pay really big medical bills that could come up for you should you get sick, right? The type and amount of insurance coverage that you choose is really going to be based on your level of risk tolerance. So there's such thing as pet insurance out there. Some of us aren't going to need pet insurance, but you might have a pet and you might think pet insurance is a great option for me. Maybe. Could you afford to deal with a big vet bill should one unexpectedly come up? And pets have a really good way of getting into some trouble every now and again, eating something they shouldn't have, right? And you have to make that emergency visit to the vet. Is that something you're prepared for? Do you have it in your savings account as an emergency fund that you could tap into? Or would it benefit you to have insurance coverage, to pay a little bit each month, to have insurance help you out in the event that you have an unexpected vet bill? Maybe. that's kind of how insurance works. You have to decide for yourself, unless it's a type of insurance that is mandated, like you have to have it, like car insurance, right? And then a final note here on protecting your identity, right? If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. So keep yourself, your information safe from others, because there are scammers out there who are trying to get it from you. They want to know who you are and your information so that they can open up credit cards in your names and do all sorts of financial damage to you and benefit for themselves. Let's avoid that, right? All right. And lastly, grow your wealth, right? We've made it to the last rung of the ladder. We've taken a lot of steps so far, and we're really strong now. We're ready to move up to this level of growing our wealth. We couldn't start there to begin with necessarily, but we've done the steps required to reach this point where we can start to invest, right? This is what's going on here, right? This is the highest rung. It's the hardest to reach, and sometimes it's, hard to hold on to if we don't take those initial steps. Remember that your budget is going to let you know if you are prepared to be here in this space, right? Let's go back to that beginning of the ladder. We set our budget. Our budget allowed us to work our way up to this point where we can say, yes, we are ready to begin growing our wealth. We are secure. We have an emergency fund. Our debts are being managed. I'm planning for the future. I'm ready to go, right? Don't skip those steps. All right, so growing your wealth, it requires investing. And I'm going to show you a video on the next slide that gives an overview of investing. It's going to be how we round out today. And it will, like I said, explain an overview of how it works and kind of why it's an effective strategy to grow your personal wealth. Let's take a look. Oh, I have to share again. Let me share correctly so you can see this. Okay. If you could let me know if it's playing in the chat, that would be greatly appreciated.
Meet Bob. Bob just graduated from college and got his first job at Corporate Co. After a month of hard work,
Oh no.
Bob has just received his first paycheck. He's very excited. Bob plans to spend 50% of it on rent and utilities, and another 30% of it on food and fun activities, like going to the movies. As for the last 20%, Bob wants to do something with it, maybe even invest it, but isn't sure where to start. So, Bob decides to deposit it into a bank account. Bob thinks this is a safe plan. After all, the bank will actually pay him a small amount of money each year, called interest, just for keeping his money safe at the bank. This sounds great. There's just one problem. Bob may actually be losing money. Bob is flabbergasted. How can that be? Well, it comes down to something called inflation. Inflation is simply the idea that prices for goods and services rise over time. Why inflation occurs is beyond the scope of this video, but your grandparents are cranky for a reason. In the 1950s, you could actually buy a loaf of bread for 12 cents and a new house for 10 grand. Inflation in the US is targeted to around 2% a year. This is bad for Bob. That's because even though the bank may pay Bob 1% for his deposit, prices have actually increased by 2%. So what should Bob do? Well, in order to actually make money, Bob needs to invest in something that will beat inflation. Generally speaking, only three things do: bonds, commercial real estate, and stocks. Let's start with bonds. Bonds are loans made to corporations or governments. In return for your money, called principal, you'll receive a fixed amount of interest per year plus your money back once the bond expires. Because of this guarantee, bonds are the safest of the three investments, though this safety comes with a cost. They have the lowest potential investment return in the long run. Next, we have commercial real estate. This is property purchased to make money, generally by renting it out. While this is quite difficult for the average investor to do on his own, Bob could instead easily invest in a REIT, which is a professionally managed real estate portfolio. Finally, we have stocks. Stocks are simple. They represent a piece of ownership in a company, like Apple or Google. People buy and sell little pieces of these companies, called shares, in places called stock exchanges. When Bob buys a share of, say, Apple, he becomes a partial owner. When Apple does well, the share price goes up, and Bob makes money. When Apple does poorly, the share price goes down, and Bob loses money. These fluctuations can make stocks risky. However, Fortunately for Bob, stocks in the United States return on average about 9% a year, including both share price appreciation and dividends, which are cash payments made to each shareholder when the company does well. Thus, if Bob invests the remaining 20% of his paycheck, say $100, he can beat inflation by almost 7% a year. But that's not all. Here comes the real magic. The next year, Bob will not only earn another 9% on his initial $100 investment, called principal, but an additional 9% on the $9 in profit from the previous year. Earning money on both your principal and profit is called compounding, and its magic is undeniable. Start investing early enough, and your portfolio will be like a snowball rolling down a hill, outstripping even those who put in much more but start later. Hopefully you and Bob now understand why it's important to invest your money. Be sure to watch our next.
Yes, I also agree. Hopefully, hopefully you do feel like you have a better understanding now, right? All right, let me fix my share here so I can circle back in with you and just kind of round out to say, so we ended with that step 5 rung of the ladder, grow your wealth. That is really the one of the last steps we come to. There's so much we have to do in the interim, but once we arrive at that point, we're ready to be in that space that, there are options to grow your wealth. And it's worth investigating. It's worth coming into the office and talking with us more about it, or exploring our saving and investing modules that we have online. We are going to have webinars about this over the course of the year. And we also have information on retirement planning too. So I think I saw some retirement questions coming up through the chat. We have lots of information out there. And on my screen here, it's just a reminder, if something piqued your interest in our conversation here today, take advantage of what we're offering to you. Visit our website, financialliteracy.psu.edu, to get these resources and to get in contact with us if you have questions. I've got that coming up, our contact information on the next screen here. So that's everything that I have for you all today. I really do appreciate you tuning in. If you have questions, I want them now because I'm going to stay on the line to answer them. If not, you're gonna peace out. A couple of quick things. I hope that you will join me again in 2 weeks on September 6th at noon, because we're going to dive deeper into paying for college. Right, that was a piece of today's webinar that we didn't get too deep into, but we're going to come back to it. We're going to come back to all of these topics in a deeper dive as the semester goes on. So check out our website for that full schedule, and hopefully I'll see you in 2 weeks.